Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Art Bros. I am here with Fancy Dave.
Hey.
And we have a very, very special guests, well, two, actually, with us today. Guys, from the Art History Babes podcast, we have Nat and Corrie. Say hello to the people, please.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Guys, we are so happy to have you on this show. We are big fans of your podcast, and the people who don't know, go into the description. We have a link. Check out their show. You will die laughing, and you will be really happy that you died that way.
It's a good way to die.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And all the way from California, right?
Yeah,
The magic of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And so today we are talking about an artist that you guys picked, Agnes Martin. And yes, and we're talking about her series of screen prints, or her portfolio, called On a Clear Day. Nat, Corrie, can you guys give us the breakdown on Agnes Martin and On a Clear Day, please?
Run it down.
Run it down.
Sure thing.
Let's run this down.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, On a Clear Day was created in 1973, and it actually followed a 6-year hiatus from art making. She had had a pretty successful career in New York and was doing really well, and decided to go on a 1.5-year travel journey through Canada and Western United States to kind of clear her mind and rid herself of distractions. Settled in New Mexico, and then didn't really create art for like 4 or 5 more years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that's why this work is so kind of pivotal in her career. And it's often considered like the epitome of her her goal in kind of eliminating the ego, not kind of, definitely eliminating the ego from her art making process. So kind of this like Taoist philosophy.
So this is like her comeback tour.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it also just marked a kind of a clear shift in where her work was going. And this notion of egoless art is pretty much associated like with her completely, is this idea of just removing herself from the art in some way and achieving some kind of transcendence. She was really interested in Eastern philosophy. So it definitely has undertones of like meditation and removing yourself from the artwork.
Yeah,
from the experience of making the artwork. That
idea of her just like living like a hermit for a couple of years there, like just, I guess, mulling this over, I guess, right?
So for someone who doesn't know Agnes Martin, what was her work like before this kind of, for lack of better words, comeback of sorts? Do you guys know?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, to someone who isn't familiar, it doesn't look that different. It's not like she went from figural painting to kind of...
Yeah, she wasn't like splashing things on the canvas all of a sudden.
Well, she was always abstract. Like, her earlier stuff is more... Yeah, it's definitely not figural, but... And we'll get into this conversation a little bit, but it's, I guess you would say, less minimalist. Like, her earlier stuff actually kind of deals with a little bit more incorporation of shapes and things. Yeah. And then as time went on, she kind of broke it down and got to a point, especially with this series, where she's focusing pretty much specifically on line and grid. Mm-hmm. But what's so interesting, too, about this work is the fact that when she started working in these grids, obviously it's meant to be kind of simple in a certain way, but there was a lot of complicated mathematics that went into the creation of these grids. There was actually one interview I saw where a curator was talking about her work and talking about Agnes Martin's process and how she would get inspiration and she would have a vision in her brain, but it would only be like an inch by inch. It would be really small. So she'd draw it the size it was in her brain. She'd draw it really small, and then she'd use all this crazy math to like make it bigger. Damn. So like these grids actually come from this kind of scientific process, which is really fascinating.
Wow, that's really cool. I hear that. It just brings a whole new level of appreciation for these things, because honestly, like myself, I look at this and I try to find the meaning behind it, and I try to find what is the what's the word, like the message? No, it starts with an I. The intent. There you go. So I try to find the intent. Can you guys tell me like a little bit about like that, like the intent that she was trying? What was she trying to do with this?
Definitely. I think, well, part of the idea behind specifically the grids, and specifically when she's moving into more of this line-based work, is she was very focused on, as we said, egoless work, but also the impossibility of perfection. And that's what's really great about a lot of these works is, if you zoom in on these grids, like there's no such thing as a perfect line, basically. So she's working with that idea. Do you want, Natalie, do you want to read the little excerpt about the work?
Yeah, so this excerpt is actually titled On a Clear Day, and she wrote it 2 years later in 1975, but it is obviously in relation to this work. So she says, artwork that is completely abstract, free from any expression of the environment, is like music and can be responded to in the same way. Our response to line and tone and color is the same as our response to sounds. And like music, abstract art is thematic. It holds meaning for us that is beyond expression in words. These prints express innocence of mind. If you can go with them and hold your mind as empty and tranquil, and tranquil as they are, and recognize your feelings at the same time, you will realize your full response to this work. Oh. So it's very much about like clarity of mind and finding beauty in emotion. And one thing, it had been associated with nature, and she was quick to kind of correct that and say that it's anti-nature, and it really is more about emotion than nature.
That makes sense. So, because you guys are talking about the pursuit of perfection, and you're talking about nature, and we all know nature doesn't make these sharp angles and these geological forms.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's kind of interesting to hear about this pursuit of nature, and she's using these geological forms to do it. Yeah. But she's like, at the same time, it's like it's not perfect.
I'm trying to like use my artist brain here, but
turn on the artist brain a little bit.
She's like trying to temper two opposite things, like nature. And even the fact that she's an abstract expressionist, is what she likes to call herself. That's like almost free flowing art in most cases.
Right.
Yeah.
But then she's trying to use these mathematics, as you said. They're like opposite things that she's trying to temper into one, into like these set of screen prints.
Can you guys make the case for Agnes as an abstract expressionist? Because this just screams minimalism to me, and like I know it shouldn't be, but please.
I got some things to say.
Yeah. All right, throw down. Come on, throw down.
Okay, so and I understand why it screams minimalism. Like, I think at first instinct, it's very easy to go there, and I get why people go there right away. The thing about Agnes, she is working in a minimal way, in the sense that she's using, minimal color or minimal line, or she's trying to break things down in a minimal way. However, she is very different from a lot of other minimalist artists, like your most famous minimalist artists. Basically, she is operating from a place of emotion. And if you're familiar with, minimalism at all, it doesn't really interact with emotion at all. It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of.
It's automatic.
Sometimes, yeah, it's automatic. It's industrial. It's very like line, shape, form, which is cool. But the thing about Agnes is, if you like spend some time with her, like and I mean that by her work, obviously I've never spent time with her, but like if you spend time with her work, like she is really tapping in to something kind of transcendent. And I was talking about this earlier, like right now our life is like crazy and hectic, and I've really loved, like because we researched for this, and then we had to reschedule, and then researched again, and like it's been really nice, because both those times I've like got to research Agnes, it's just brought me to this really calm, lovely place that I need to be in right now.
Well, you're welcome for canceling on you the first time, then.
Because her work, it's a lot of times she is compared to Rothko, and I think in a very I think that's a very fair assessment, in the sense that because Rothko's work was also, he's a color field painter, and his work was very much about expressing raw states of existence and emotion. And I feel like Agnes Martin's doing the exact same thing. The thing with Agnes Martin compared to Rothko is that Rothko was expressing these states in kind of a more intense, sometimes like scary way, and I love it. But Agnes Martin's work is just like you just feel at peace with it, and it's like this beautiful, peaceful, calming moment. And to me, that is like the ultimate expression. Like that's not minimalism. That is definitely expression.
I think the white really helps with that too.
What was that?
I think the white really helps with that feeling of
on a clear day, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the important part. Feel.
Do you have any feelings, Nat?
I have lots of feelings. I find so much solace in this work. It's absurd. I don't know. I think you could make a way easier case for her being an abstract expressionist if you look at other work. This one's probably the hardest one to fit in that box, but I think I stand behind everything Corrie said, and I don't think you could say it much better. I mean, that's why she's in line with the abstract expressionist. And I guess this is kind of going off a little bit, but we were also kind of talking about what she's trying, her intent with this work, and we haven't really talked about the kind of the choice in number. So there are 30 of these prints, and it's supposed to represent the passage of time because there are 30 days in a month. Generally, obviously that doesn't work for every month, whatever. But if you're
mind blown,
30 days in a month. So she's...
And that obviously relates to the title of the work, On a Clear Day.
On a Clear Day. Yeah. Clear also in reference to clarity, which she's seeking, this kind of clarity of mind. It's so multifaceted for something that looks so simple at first glance.
And I actually have a quote from her that I think really speaks to this abstract expressionist angle. And it's in reference to both these works and other grid works that she did. I was thinking about innocence, and then I saw it in my mind, that grid, so I painted it, and sure enough, it was innocent. Oh. So obviously, it's obviously, I mean, everything about this is expression of feeling and emotion.
I think that's the perfect way to wrap up this episode, with that quote right there. Anything you guys want to say before we conclude about Agnes? The final thoughts, if you will.
Yeah, just that we're really big fans, and I think she's easy to overlook because you have to spend time with her and think about what's actually going on. So even if like On a Clear Day doesn't do anything for you, check out some of her other work. She's something special.
And she wrote a lot, so if not as into the visual stuff, but you like reading, she's got some great stuff you can read.
Damn. All right. And I think everyone listening should check out the Art History Babes podcast.
I think they should.
And you think so too? That'd be great.
And like I said, check out their description. Our description. Their link will be there, along with the link to all our social media. So, guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. We would love if you did that, and we will continue to make more episodes with awesome guests like the Art History Babes. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. This was super fun.
Thank you, and thank you for turning me on to Agnes Martin. Like, I feel so like opened up and enlightened now.
Wow, that's a big compliment.
Yeah, you guys can explain art extremely well. I'm very jealous of it.
I'm gonna cry.
Nicest thing you could have said to us.
So, from Mike, Fancy Dave, and the Art History Babes, we will see you guys next time here on the Art Bros.
Later.